All right. Hello, 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 beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of your podcaster's favorite podcast, and that is Let's Talk Sis. I'm your host, Shekinah, and I am joined at I'm gonna start that line over again. I'm your host, Shekinah, and I am joined by my real life cousin, Sierra. How you doing, girl?
Hey, I'm doing great, doing wonderful on
Yes.
this beautiful day. How are you today?
I am doing good. I'm a little jelly because I see the sun shining through over there, but I don't want to
Yes,
get
I
too much
forgot.
into it.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that. I was gonna get into that. But first, I want to make sure that everybody likes, comments, and subscribes because
Yes,
y'all got to keep up with us. We want to hear y'all thoughts. We want to hear y'all feedback. We want y'all to be a part of the conversation with us. So make sure that y'all
correct.
are, keeping up with us, liking, commenting, subscribing, sending it to your peoples, your cousins, your aunties, your sisters, everybody. Come on in here and
Everybody,
have a conversation with us.
everyone you
But
know.
yeah, so for today, actually, when it comes to ranting or raving,
Yes.
that was going to be my rave. The sun is shining.
Yay.
So I'm in Michigan where it is just the weather is
Ooh.
blah and boo. We get
Mm-hmm.
about 2 months, about 2 good months of good weather, and
Yeah.
I soak it up. And also, it's my birthday month. It's May.
Let's get out. Let's get out. What's
My
what sign is
birthday.
that? What sign are you?
I'm a Gemini. Right now it's Taurus,
Mm.
I believe. I think it's still Taurus season. hmm But us Geminis starting out. We coming up. We coming up. Don't sleep on us, you know.
So, what are like three characteristics of a Gemini other than
That
two faces? Because that's all I know. Y'all got two faces, two sides, or whatever to
they say we're
Gemini.
crazy, and that's all I know. I don't I don't do no
You don't look it up at all.
no. I don't do any horoscopes, any what are they called?
Astrology.
Yeah, I'm not into that. I'm into Jesus. So
Amen. Well, all right. It's so funny that that is your rave because my rant for today is going to be that I'm sick of this weather and its bipolarness over here in the VA because it was like 89 degrees last week and then it was like 75 and then earlier today it was like 84 degrees and now it's all just kind of wet and gloomy and I bought a volleyball because I just knew we was finna get outside and go play
Mhm.
volleyball or do something fun and no, we're not. We're
It's
sitting
that
in the house because it's raining outside.
it's actually
So
a little bit of rain today.
I'm ranting about that. I'm ranting about it. And it's supposed to rain all week. So
Well, hopefully you get you a good nap in somewhere in there.
yeah. See, that's the problem with me though. I don't nap. I'm just if I go to sleep, I'm going to be sleep for the rest of the day. That's my
Right.
problem. Like I can't take an hour, 20-minute naps. Like
No,
I
anything less than 2 hours, it's not gonna work for
it's
me.
not a real nap. Mhm.
Not gonna work for me.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, listen, hopefully Mother Nature does what it needs to do for the both of us to be happy. Okay? Like just give us some sun, just be a cool 75,
Mhm.
80 here and there. Year
Yeah,
round.
not too much.
Yeah.
89 is a lot. Not too much.
I mean,
Not too
it's
much.
better than 32.
No, I'll take the 89. No, I will take the 89.
No, no, no. I said 79 to 80. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you said
79.
89. I was
Mm-mm.
about to say that's kind of a lie.
79 to 80. Yeah.
No, I'm taking the 79.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
sign me up.
All day long.
Mhm.
All right. Well, that was short and sweet and to the point. So, Sierra, tell us what's going on in these timeline streets. What's tea, honey?
All right. So today in these timeline streets,
Mm-hmm.
y'all know we have the Kendrick and the Drake beef, right? So we're not gonna go too deep into that because that's a lot right
Yeah.
now.
Like,
It's still building, so we don't
do
even know.
your own research. Do your
Yeah,
own research.
there we go. However, in one of Kendrick's disses to Drake, he states that you need to have four grandparents to be able to say the word nigga, right?
Mm.
I could say it. I got four grandparents. Sorry.
For Black grandparents.
Yes, I'm sorry. Four black grandparents to be able to say the word nigga. So because obviously Drake does not. So that was a diss to him or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
However, some people have taken personal offense. Some, mixed people have taken personal offense because they're like, well, I'm black. So why can't, I got a drop of black
Mm-hmm.
in me. I got a little
A little tinks.
yeah, so why can't I say nigga? So it was actually this one girl who she is mixed. Her father is black and her mother is white. So she's 50-50.
Okay.
And so she was offended. So in that case, she would have two black grandparents and two
Right.
white grandparents. And she was offended that she felt like she took it personal. She felt
Mm-hmm.
like Kendrick was talking to her some way.
Mm-hmm.
She
Mm-hmm.
didn't say. And so a lot of us were explaining to her that, first of all, I think there's a difference between someone who is so I don't necessarily agree with I guess let me ask, do you agree with Kendrick and his saying you have to have four black grandparents in order to say the word nigga?
No, no,
Yeah.
no,
I
no.
don't necessarily I don't agree with that either.
No, I think you earn that right based on your experience and that you go through in life. If you're going through life and you are treated or viewed or oppressed as such, then you have the right to use said term. But if not, you go through life passing, and that's even tough too because it's some white passing people who are 50-50 and they just look white. I
Mhm.
guess they could technically say nigga too, by that standard. So I don't think you need four black grandparents. No.
No, and I agree. I don't think you need four black grandparents. However, I do think when it's how like on TikTok you see where somebody will say, well, I have a black, you know, they say they have black in them, and you looking like,
Where?
where?
Is
And
it
they got
black with us in the
no,
room?
my grandpa, and they showing pictures
Sure.
of that. That's when I feel like you said, your experience. When you're
Mm,
not going out into the world and society is not viewing you as a black person
hmm.
because of, just like you said, your
The way
experiences,
that, mhm,
I think it changes things. So I think for her, like I said, she is 50-50. She's visibly a black woman.
mhm,
She lives the life of a black woman. She's around
mhm,
black culture. She speaks in our
mhm,
vernacular, all of the things. So I'm like, you, don't take it. My thing
mhm.
was, don't allow somebody to tell you what you can and can't say. If
Right.
you are black, you do have
Right.
these experiences. Who cares, if they say you're supposed to have four black
Yeah.
parents? Like, you're allowing, I don't know.
Well, I think you brought up the point too that she was kind of saying that there was some sort of jealousy or something involved, or
Yeah, saying those who feel like you have to have four black parents to be to say the N-word. She feels like those people are jealous because they don't have anything in them.
they're not mixed with anything.
Yeah, we don't have anything
Mm.
other than black in us. She thinks
Yeah, that's a reach. That's a bit of a
that's
reach.
that's a far reach. That's a stretch.
Yeah, that's a bit of a reach because that's in the unfortunate trickles of, this whole colorism debate and who's better than who, and she
No
has
colorism.
been whitewashed or conditioned to believe that whiteness in her somehow now makes her a bit superior to the rest of the niggas in the house. You know,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? She a
No, y'all
nigga, but she
niggas is
ain't a
in the
nigga.
house. I'm on the porch.
You
I'm
know
a
what I'm
porch
saying?
nigga. Y'all's house is niggas.
Exactly. So it was kind of like, girl, now you pushing it with that. Don't take too offense. Like again, if that's your experience and you feel like you one of the niggas, then go ahead and say it. But if not, then you know, let that ship just ride.
Mhm.
It's definitely not that we're missing out on anything by not being mixed with something, and you also brought the point earlier that while there are mixed people in the world, their experiences can often be different than those who are not. So that might be why they feel that way. That might be why they feel like we're a little bit jealous because we don't have that opportunity or that privilege that they might have.
Absolutely. Because with being mixed, it is, I get it that they are black, but like you said, there are some experiences that they will not face
Mhm.
being of a mixed race that those of us who are, you know, fully black, dark skinned, that we will face, that some light skinned mixed woman or mixed man may not face. And not to say that they don't face anything or their experiences are diminished, but it's not the same. It just is
Right.
not. Sorry.
Totally, totally different. That's what I say. I guess, we are not a monolith. And
But I also do think that we as black people have to get away from separating ourselves.
mhm,
The white people look at us as black people.
yes,
They use a nigga, use a nigga, use a
yes,
nigga, use a
yes,
nigga.
yes,
So
yes.
I'm just, and that's what was my point, was just like, this is just another way for us to divide ourselves.
Correct,
You're black,
correct. At the end
you're
of the day,
black. You're a black woman, you're a black woman.
right. So then, is Kendrick wrong for trying to take away Drake's blackness? Then,
I think so.
yeah, and saying
But
that,
however, though, it is a difference where, because what they're saying is that Drake wasn't raised in black culture.
sure.
However, now kind of, you've immersed yourself in black culture and now you're, spewing that out as if this is who you are when this is a learned. It's kind of like, so I think from what I've heard, is that people are saying that Drake is kind of like cosplaying a black.
Sure. Okay, well, let's take it outside of Drake and let's take it outside of Kendrick.
Mhm.
And let's just put it in the fact of a mixed child who grew up with their white family and wants to acknowledge their black side and wants to immerse themselves in the culture and does become about that life. Is that not who they are? Can they not essentially rep that lifestyle just because it was introduced to them later in life? Do people not change?
No, but I think it has to be a genuine, not I'm adopting this culture just to fit in, or I genuinely want to know more about who I am and my people and how I was raised, or is it just them niggas got
How do we determine that?
that's an internal. You can tell when somebody is like, you playing, like you literally are. It's like you playing dress up, or like, this don't even fit you. You don't even sound right saying nigga. You're saying nigger. Like, I don't know, just like you can tell when
Hard
somebody,
ER.
this is not who you are. You're just trying to fit in or trying to
I'm
change.
just really curious about that because I'm curious because, right, if that were me and I was a mixed child and I did grow up with my white family and then I all of a sudden came around my cool ass black cousins, we all know black people are the culture. We all know black folks are fun, we're entertaining, we're funny, we gonna have the time,
Mhm.
and whereas before I was eating pasta and Italian dinners all the time with my white family, like this is interesting to me. This is fun. This is new. This is exciting. So yeah, I'm gonna immerse myself in this, and yeah, I might start rocking J's and bomber jackets and 3 chains, and oh shit, we get gold teeth around here. Okay, I want gold teeth too. We driving fast cars, we carrying AKs. Like,
Mhm.
okay, I want to do that too. So it's kind of
It
like
is, but that's not
what is the determining factor between it's really genuine or it's just something new and that nigga trying it on because
I just
he
feel
has
like,
that option to
yeah.
go from his white family his black family.
I just feel like the way that it is presented and the way that you do it, you can genuine. I feel like you can tell when it is a genuine and like,
Sure.
oh, I really love, like, I love this kind of music. Oh, I actually do like my hair in corn, versus I'm trying to fit in. Look, I got cornrows too. Look, I got
Okay, so let me ask you, do you think Drake is genuine or do you think he's just trying to fit in, putting it back on Drake and Kendrick?
I think at this point, I think Drake kind of has the best of both. I don't think he's faking
I
the
don't
black.
think so.
No, I don't think I think at this point he's been in the culture so long. Like,
Correct.
this nigga's close with Wayne. You think he's not, like, come on, like,
Correct.
and
Correct.
I don't see Drake as white. Like, I just see Drake as a black man. Now, mind you, Drake is a bad B. Drake is a bad B.
Not a baddie.
Drake is a more so not,
Champagne poppy.
yeah, not so more so black and white. Drake is more so, is you sassy or is you a real nigga? What? what we doing here? So I don't
Yes.
necessarily see. When I heard that, I was just like Kendrick. Everybody was like, "Ooh," and I was just like, to me,
Yeah.
Drake is
It
a
was
black man
funny,
in my eyes.
in the heat of the moment, but now, like, as I'm thinking about it, it's just interesting that that is, the one of the main attacks, just because it's like when we think about that whole thing, what else do you expect the man to do? Because if he was white and then totally denied his black side, I'm not one of you niggers,
Oh
then it
yeah.
would be like we still niggas in a coop. So it's kind of like what would you want the man
You
to do?
can't, and that's why I'm like, black people, we got to stop doing that. We're just putting each other
Right.
against each other, and they already hate us.
Right.
Why are we doing that? Light skin, dark skin, caramel. No, you brown skin. No, you caramel. No, we got to get away from that. We got to get
Round.
away from that.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, in the spirit of, tough conversations, we're going to move on to our timeline topic of the week this week. And I'm going to play a video that just kind of inspired a greater topic, and we'll get into it from there. But um, I am not necessarily a follower of this next person, Gerard Carmichael. We're going to listen to a clip from his TV show. I don't know if it's Netflix or Hulu or something is streaming right now. I probably should have figured that out. But anywho, um, and in this, so his whole special, from what I've surmised, is very awkward. Is like the best word that I can describe it. And his sense of comedy and his sense of storytelling and documenting things is awkward. Um, he likes to kind of put people in these weird, uncomfortable situations and let life play out, and will hold the pause, in after a statement, and just wait. Like, see if people are gonna say things. So in that spirit, that is kind of, he's in this clip having a conversation with his father, who their relationship is not good, based on the infidelity, the lack of relations that his father had with Gerard as a child. And so we'll play the clip, and then we'll get into it. We'll make it personal. We'll kind of keep it a bay, and just chat a little bit. Okay.
He has another family with a woman named Bernita. He had 4 kids by her and kind of lived a double life. My biggest fear of my father is simply that he had more fun with this other family. Would you say you loved her, or was it just like sexual, or was it, because it was a long time, that's what, like 40 years of a relationship? Was it hard every time? Did you feel like a bad person? Did you feel like you were 2 different people? Why are you digging into that so deep, son? Why are you doing this? What's I mean, that's that then, this now. It's not then. Stop saying it's also now. I thought this trip was gonna be about you and I bonding. Let's stop talking about my past and move on forward. Okay, I would like to meet my brothers in the future. I'm talking about Ford. I'd like to meet them. You got hostility against me. I got feelings too. The way that you don't want to be hurt, I don't want to be hurt. Is this going to be on your special? Maybe, probably, yeah, I don't know. This not to be discussed on cameras. But it's already public. It's public. It's public. You made it public. I didn't make it public. You had children outside of your marriage as the most public thing you can do. Like that, I want to make clear. I'm not making it public. You made it public. No, and you made it public good. No, well, don't. Now that's childish. That's tit for tat. You made it public. I knew this was coming. I don't even want to get into an argument about it. I'm saying you're being very defensive. You're being very defensive over, and I know you're not even considering if it bothers me or hurt me or whatever. You hearing on what you want Gerard to hear. How do you think it made me feel to be at a high school with my brother and other people knew he was related to me and I didn't know? How do you think that bothered me? Then you could have came to me. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was supposed to come to you and say, Dad, you coming to me now? Yeah, because you would never. So don't criticize how I come if you weren't going to say anything. You weren't going to do shit. I actually am doing something. Your option is no option. So don't criticize the way I do it. If the cameras help me, then they fucking help. But your way is nothing. Your way is silence. Your way is death. I'm not doing that. I'm being a man. I'm stepping up. I'm actually saying the things. These are your children and your grandchildren. These aren't my kids. I didn't fuck nobody. I ain't have no kids outside of my marriage. I didn't do that. You did that. And you're ashamed of it. I get it. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. I had things I'm ashamed of too. But don't come at me with that shit. And yes, I bring in cameras. And yes, that's my way. And yes, I'm afraid to have these conversations without them. Yes, because I don't think you want to have these conversations. I know you don't. You have the iron fist and all these things. And so however I do it, I'm doing it. But you weren't going to do it. I knew it. You just hit a mouthful, son. You express yourself. You say what you wanted to say. You gonna do what you want to do. Can I go home?
Okay. So they're sitting around a campfire talking. Mm-hmm. And so those moments of silence were just that, moments of silence in the conversation. So that's a lot to unpack. But the angle in which I want to approach it is really have you and having to have tough conversations with your parents, and how much do they owe you of an explanation / how much do you need to really move on in the situation? Because ultimately that whole video, if it was hard to hear or whatever, was basically Gerard confronting his dad about the fact that he was married to his mom for 40 years, and 39 of the 40, pretty much, he was cheating, stepped out on his mom. And Gerard is saying, my biggest fear is that you had more fun with your other family. And apparently there are clips in the documentary of him wrestling with the kids and all of this stuff. And his dad in this confrontation is like, why are you doing this on the camera? Why are we going back down this road? Do you have it out for me? You got animosity against me, when Gerard is asking him, well, what was going through your mind? How were you feeling? Why would you do something like that? And he kind of went off on this, and his dad is like, well, you made it publicer, like basically by putting it on these cameras. And Gerard is saying, well, this is what helps me. This is my therapy. This is my process of getting it out. Because honestly, if the cameras hadn't been here, you damn sure ain't having no conversation or even sitting through this with me. So if this is what I got to do to get it out, this is what I got to do. You weren't going to ever do anything. So don't criticize, my methods of going about healing, essentially. And his dad kind of responded with, are you done? Basically, are you finished? Or are you done? Can I go home now? And Gerard puts out the fire, and that's the end of that conversation. So, have you ever had to have a tough conversation with your parents? Or, elder?
I have, and it wasn't necessary, I guess. So when my dad got into a car accident a couple years ago, and we were basically his caregivers. Like I don't know. He had surgery on his, like, he was non-weight bearing. Like, he couldn't put any weight on his legs. So, like, round the clock care. And so during that, obviously, so I was living with my parents at the time. So we were, like I said, round the clock care, where he could have been in a nursing home, but we chose to where we would be the nurses. So we had to do the medicine, the bed change, everything. And so at one point, obviously, my mom, that's her husband, she would just be like, she was very like micromanaging type when it came to like us giving the medicine. And she's like, did you give the 3 ounces? And I'm like, we got it. We got it. Like, and then so it would be like, say I left, something out. It just got to the point where I felt like she was only pointing out, you forgot to put this cup away, or you forgot this, you forgot. And I'm like, I just feel unappreciated because we're doing all of this, but you're only pointing out the little negative things, or the, things I forgot to do or whatever I said, but you never say like, thank you for what you did do or whatever. And she was like, oh, it was kind of a step back for her. So I guess that's really the only, conversation really that where I've had to be like, you're kind of hurting my feelings. You're making me feel, unappreciated. And I'm giving my all. And it's like, God forbid I forgot to put one of the medicine back, or God forbid I left something out or something. It just, so she was like, but she was very receptive to it. She didn't, and my dad was,
consider yourself blessed, child.
Yeah. That's one thing with my parents, because even when you ask that, I'm like, me and my parents, the way that we communicate is she says what she feel, they say what they feel, I say what I feel, and it just, so it's like, it's constant communication. It's not like we let things build up to where like, now I've been feeling like this for a long time and I gotta get it off my, like, how, like, it just, so I don't have an example.
I have had my own experience with this. As a matter of fact, in starting this podcast, there have been a couple of episodes that my mother hasn't necessarily been in agreement with, in terms of how I decided to tell my story and my experience. And part of the reason I started the podcast was to create a platform in which I could do that, because I did not feel that I had that space in communicating with her. Or many people really, and I couldn't afford therapy. So
okay.
And so I have had to learn how to defend my feelings and my experience, and stand on what I say, and know that, and the biggest lesson in it is that, and we've talked about it before, especially with our parents, like, you don't have to agree with it. You really don't, and that's okay. And I think I had to get to that point, and I have to accept I'm putting my opinion out on a public platform, so therefore anybody can say what they want to say.
Right.
I encourage people, in fact, to have an opinion about something that I'm saying, but it does hit a little bit different when it is your parent telling you that what you're saying was your experience is not true, right? Or that ain't how it went down, or really, well, you shouldn't feel disrespect. I wasn't disrespecting you. You're just taking it as disrespect. Like, when you get those kinds of things. And so, it's tough, right? Because to answer my own question of, well, how much of an explanation do your parents owe you, right? So I want to ask you, with me and my mom's main beef, if you will, for example, were just things, let's say, post-divorce, just whether it was how she showed up, how I showed up, how we interacted or engaged with each other, things that I expected that maybe did not happen. Not being as general as I can, because we get into the details, honey, we'll be here for a whole nother day. Okay. And so what do you feel is a level of, well, you owe me this versus you don't owe me that?
I don't necessarily know the fine line, but I do think as I've gotten older, you start to see your parents as people. They're not just your parents. They are literally learning life the same way that you're learning life. They're going through it every day, figuring it out. So I've learned, as I've gotten older, I've kind of learned to extend a little bit more grace, because I know that at one point I'm going to be a parent who's figuring out life, and I'm not going to do everything right, and I'm not always going to make the right decisions. So I definitely think that there are some instances where you do need to have a conversation with your kids, and you do need to, allow them to be open with you and you be open with them. But at the same time, there are some things where, I was figuring out life. I don't really have an explanation for you. I did what I thought was best in that moment. With the circumstances allowed, now looking back, maybe I could have done some things differently, but in that moment, I did what I thought was best. So no, I don't have to explain to you, I don't necessarily have to explain everything to you, but I do think if both of you value the progression of your relationship, because parents have to realize that at certain points we become adults as well, and we're not just your children, we're now adults seeing how things were done and putting things together. So it's a twofold. It's definitely, I feel like, if both of you care enough to have that positive relationship, your parents are going to have to give a little, and you're also going to have to understand that they are human and they are figuring life out day by day, and sometimes they don't have an explanation. They don't.
And you see, this is the rebuttal to what you're saying, because what you're saying sounds really, really good, right? And I love it. I'm here for it. Mm-hmm. Where I struggle is, how do I know that you're a human, right? Because at 28, obviously I know this, but also still not really, right? You still my mama and you still my daddy, right? How do I know that you're a human if you don't walk me through or allow me to see those human emotions? And when you tell me, well, I don't have to explain nothing to you, that's exactly what somebody mama gonna say, not somebody's, confidant or friend, or in that moment friend, or a woman trying to get to know another woman, a woman trying to get to know another man. So how do you reconcile allowing your child, at a young adult child, to see you as a human being if you don't explain yourself, if you don't offer them some sort of reconciliation in their mind of, well, why, in my mom's words, I got lost in the shuffle. Well, why did that happen? How did that happen? How? Yeah. And if you come to me, sorry, go ahead.
That's just her having to be willing. Like Correct. I said, she's gonna have to give a little, but you're also gonna have to understand a little that she may not have the explanation you're looking for. Because for me, I'm a very, logical person, and sometimes it may not be a logical. I genuinely just did what I thought was best. I don't have an explanation.
Right.
So it has to be, your parent has to be willing to kind of, give a little, but also the child also has to be willing to be understanding. I think you got to meet you. It's that willingness, because as a parent, a lot of parents are like, I did what I did and that was that. And it's like, no, if you genuinely care to have a relationship with your child and have a healthy relationship with your child, you will kind of explain a little bit and go.
Right.
But if you don't care and it's just, no, I did the best I could and you're going to take it how you're going to take it, then you have to be okay with maybe your child doesn't necessarily want to talk to you anymore, or, whatever it is. So it's definitely, I think for me, is that willingness to have a healthy relationship.
Correct. And so that's an excellent point, which for me was a big turning point for the progress of me and my mom's relationship, right? Because there's been some explanations that I've gotten, right? And to your point, I think offered the best that she can offer, but also to my point, maybe didn't necessarily satisfy what I was looking for. And I had to decide, well, am I willing to work with that? Am I gonna
be her explanation?
Correct. Can I just accept what it is for what it is, right, and move on? And sometimes set up certain boundaries of, well, we're not going to talk about that if you can't talk about that. You know Absolutely. What I'm saying? If we can't Absolutely. Get into it for real, and
I can't do the surface.
Right here.
We're not gonna scratch the surface. Either we're gonna get
Correct.
into it, or we're gonna leave it alone.
Correct. And I think that is a very powerful to any, child out there struggling with that, moving forward in your relationship with your parent, forgiving your parent of something contentious or somewhere where y'all just are not meeting of the minds. It is, like you said, a willingness and a decision. Okay. Because if it's anybody else off the street, we probably not gonna be that cool. Just based on how I do relationships. I'm not doing all this back and forth with too many people. But however, you're my parent, you're my mom, you're my dad. So we locked in, right? So now I have to decide, am I willing to move forward? And you determine that. Did they really try to give you what you were looking for, right? Did they actually open themselves up? Were they vulnerable enough to give what they could? And be fair with them on that, right? Be fair with them on, that's the best that they got for me, or whatever you have to rationalize, to be able to move on. And then, like I said before, okay, this is the boundary, this is a fine line in the sand. If I can't get a better understanding, if you can't say it a different way for me, if I can't ask more questions without it becoming defensive and argumentative, we are not talking about that. And that's just where it has to stop.
So with the Farad situation, I just feel like, first of all, you can't ambush somebody with cameras and expect them to be open and vulnerable. However, he does have to take in account to his dad's response. And he's basically like, we're not talking about this. I'm over it. Let it go. Move on. So you can't force somebody. You have to just take that, like you said, take that. Okay, he's not going to talk about this. Am I going to move on for this, or are we just not going to have a relationship?
Correct.
Because it doesn't seem, he's not, like I said, that willingness. His dad is not willing. And also, I don't know if he says that his dad, if he didn't put the cameras in his face, his dad wouldn't have talked about it. But it doesn't seem like he's tried that before. It seems like he just thought that. It doesn't.
Well, I do feel like he tried it before, because the dad said something to the effect of, "Here we go with this again." So to say, like, we're trying to talk about this again.
Because I remember he said something about seeing his brother, and he's like, "Well, why didn't you come to me?"
Right. So that too.
So it's like, did you really try to have this conversation with him before you ambushed him with these cameras?
And that's another excellent point. When you are trying to, back to what we talked about before with communication and getting what you want out of people, you got to consider that, right? You got to consider what's the best approach, and
you do have to consider their response. Like, no, it wasn't the response you were looking for, but that tells you,
what did you expect?
Yeah. But
that also leads me to believe, I don't know if getting a response out of his father in this case was necessarily the goal, right? I don't think he was, because he seems like a smart guy.
Yeah, at this point, it genuinely seemed like you was just trying to expose your dad. Correct. It didn't seem like you wanted a genuine.
Correct. You couldn't have. You would have sat down with a therapist, a third party, something more intimate, something more private, especially when nothing has led you to believe he's willing to even have a conversation about it, let alone something ambushing for the cameras. He's talking about, I thought we was finna come up here to go fishing and hang out.
And you done put some cameras in my face.
You want to talk about my baby mamas.
Okay, what is going on here?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point too. When you have these tough conversations, and
the way that you approach them matters.
Correct. The way that you approach it matters. And go ahead.
Because he said in the video, he said, "You don't think I have feelings too? You don't think I have?"
Right. That's why, true.
Like, genuinely, it was like a revelation to me one day. Like, oh wait, my parents are human. Like, they don't have a rule book either. Because as you get older, I literally am figuring life out day by day. And I'm 26. My parents have 4 kids at this point.
Ooh.
My dad had 2 before. So my dad is a little older, but my mom by 24, she had my dad's older 2 plus the 2 they had. And I'm just like, I don't know how the heck I would have messed up 4 kids by now.
What?
I don't know what I would have done to them by now. That would have been part of their childhood or part of their makeup. And so you got to think that they genuinely are learning day by day with us.
Correct.
So when you see that, when you learn that, it's like, okay, I can give. Now there are some things that's now, you shouldn't have did that. You shouldn't have did that. But
and if you didn't know, now you know.
Okay, so definitely, it's definitely a fine line. It definitely comes down to being willing.
Yeah, my girlie Yamla, she says this all the time. You have to know your parents' stories, like you alluded to earlier, because a lot of times we think, well, what can make a parent abandon me? Or what can make a parent talk to me like this? Or how could a mother do this to a child, right? But then if you shift your perspective around certain things, what stories and things are playing in their head that this would be the best that they could have for you, right? She tells a story of, this mother and her children are starving all day long, and a mom will walk 2 miles and catch a bus to go downtown to dig through the best trash in the city, and even though it's a burger from the trash, it's the best trash she could find. And we don't ever put it in those contexts of you brought me trash, where, well, you could have had nothing, you could have been starving. You know what I'm saying? But realize how much work and things and efforts go into the things that our parents do for us and the experience that they have provided for us. So it's tough. And coming from somebody who's had many challenging conversations with my parents, if I could do anything better in those conversations, I would try to be more understanding from the jump, which is easier said than done, right? Because I'm coming into it with my emotions and my feelings. But I would try to be more understanding from the jump. That's just all I can do on my behalf. So, I think that goes a long, long way. Sierra, anything else you want to add or talk about? Oh, I did want to say about at the end how he was like, all right, can I go now? That's tough.
Yeah. And that's how I said, he has to just accept that his dad is not ready to have that conversation. And you can't try to force him to, is only going to make you're not going to get the closure you need. You're not going to get the answer. It's just like the situation happened. You didn't get what you wanted out of that by ambushing. You didn't get what you wanted. So, I just would say, stick to your boundaries, recognize that your parents are human. However, stick to your boundaries and just give grace. All of the things. Give grace.
Talk to God first too. Talk to him before you go into that conversation.
Definitely. But don't be so, so closed off to where your parents did something and you like, I'm done. Your parents is human too. And I keep saying that because that's something I genuinely learned. Like,
girl, I would say, put it on a sticky note and read it
recent
every
years.
day.
I'm like, dang, these are like, they don't have a rule book. Cause even like thinking about, like, how we call them mom, and they trying to say, I call my parents for everything. They said that I got to pay. They said that I'm supposed to do that. Imagine nobody calling me. I don't know nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like, you got to think they figuring it out too. So give your parents grace, but also don't let them just, walk all over you because they're your parents.
And to these parents, y'all not too grown to have to explain yourself, okay? I just had to let you know, you're not too grown to have to explain yourself for what y'all did back in the 80s, okay? And if you can't explain yourself, you have a problem explaining yourself, it's probably because you don't know why you did what you did back in the 80s. So therefore, you need to talk to somebody, and you need to figure that out, okay? Because holding on to all of that trauma y'all got, all of them problems, all of them unanswered mistakes, that ain't an excuse, okay? It was 20, 30, 40 years ago, but you need to figure out what's going on because it's probably still affecting your choices today.
And you projecting them on your kids.
Stop doing that. We love you. Okay? Okay.
We say this with love.
Listen, y'all. That's all I got. I think that's all we got. We got no more.
Yes, that was good. I like that conversation. Y'all let us know in the comments if y'all have had y'all personal experiences with this topic and with, some things you may have had to have conversations with your parents about and how you navigated those and what the outcome was.
Yes, please give us the tea. And listen, if y'all didn't get something from this episode, You must have been on mute. You got something waxed in your ears or something.
Y'all got
you don't
something.
speak of English. Like what's
Okay.
like what's really going on? I think this was an amazing episode. Send this to aunties, uncles, sisters, cousins, brothers, your friends, and your best friends, and tell them we love them just as much as we love you. So thank y'all for joining us for another week of Let's Talk Sis. See y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.